Happy Juneteenth from Buffalo, New York, the second largest celebration in the country. I am joined here by incredibly hardworking, dedicated individuals, particularly in the last month since the massacre of our neighbors. They have truly risen to the occasion. I'm so proud of their work. Let me first recognize Mayor Brown, who's just been a partner that I couldn't for someone of his depth of passion for this community, but also his sense of urgency that I share to do whatever we can in the short term and the long term to lift this community up. So to Mayor Brown, I'm also joined by our new Lieutenant Governor, Antonio Delgado, who has joined us here in Buffalo. It's not his first time. He's been here many times, and I thank him for his service as well. Our Attorney General, Letitia James, who came on the ground, was there to talk about what we can do to ferret out white supremacists and actions and find them on the internet before they become manifest into actions. I want to thank her for taking the lead on that in partnership with us as well. I know I'll be joined shortly by the Majority Leader, Crystal Peoples-Stokes, who we just marched with. Senator Tim Kennedy has joined us. Erie County Executive Mark Polkars, Legislative Chair April Baskin, and also our community leaders. We had a meeting yesterday and talked about some of the ideas that you're going to hear come forth today. Thomas Buford, the president of the Buffalo Urban League. Catherine Roberts, the president of the Resource Center of Western New York. Alex Wright, the African American Heritage Food Co-op. Drea Deneur, the president and founder of Feed Buffalo. Dee Johnson, president and founder of the Witness Project. And from my administration, Hope Knight, the chair of Empire State Development. It's been a month. It's been a long, painful month, and the eyes of the nation were on our community. We had hoped to be on always the positive, but this time people shared in our pain. As I traveled the state of New York, I can't tell you the number of people, strangers who come up to me who knew how deeply I care about this community, who just offered a hug or some comfort to know what a painful experience we all just came through. And to talk about this on a day when we honor the end of slavery, 2 years after it was supposed to happen. There were people imprisoned, still enslaved in Texas, who never knew that they had been finally released. And that long journey toward real civil rights may have started back at that time, but it is still unfinished business, as we have seen today when there's still rampant racism, and as we saw manifest itself here on May 14th, white supremacists who have such hate in their hearts that they'll travel to a community like Buffalo and end the lives of 10 good Buffalonians. So we talk about that. We talk about our responsibility to take care of this community, the immediate needs, the pain, the need for basic services, for food, transportation, mental health services, social services, in the immediate term. And that's what we started with. We started with a real investment on the ground to talk about $3 million immediately in federal and state funding for services. We had the State Office of Victim Services here immediately, setting up organizations for additional funding, partnering with rideshare companies, because I said, people, how are they going to get to the grocery store? I said, call Uber, call Lyft, tell them I need their help. Let's change the bus routes. Let's make it free. Let's do whatever we can to help people overcome what they've been through. And this is something I spoke with President Biden about when I asked him to come to Buffalo. And he was getting busy for a trip to Asia, but I said, this community needs you. There's no one more empathetic than President Biden. We brought him here. We talked about the resources from the federal government, state government, to do what we can to help lift this community up. But even before this time, some people think that we all of a sudden started paying to the needs of East Side of Buffalo, or government has not cared about the needs of East Side Buffalo for decades. I will say that is true. But that started turning around with my first budget back in January, when I announced that we would spend $1 billion, and this is something that was promoted seriously by Crystal Peoples-Stokes, Senator Kennedy, Mayor Brown, to have $1 billion to reconnect a community that was one of the reasons there is such segregation, a community divided by a highway. That highway should no longer exist. It is time to heal the wounds of a community as well as heal the nature of the Kensington Expressway and literally close it up and start rebuilding on top of it. Parks, recreation, affordable housing, amenities, small retail, all that can happen in the place where there has been this asphalt divider between our communities. We also at the time allocated $37 million for the Broadway market, $30 million for the Michigan Street African American Heritage Corridor, $6 million to support Martin Luther King Park. We just visited there a few minutes ago. $55 million more for Northland Corridor redevelopment, phase 3. $21 million for the Northland Workforce Training Center, and $55 million for the Central Terminal. So that is what we had in place prior to the devastation of May 14th. But when I sent my team on the ground, I said, I want you to peel back. These are great transformative projects, but what's happening at the human level? What other needs are unmet? And I'm not going to leave any stone unturned until we figure out how to give this community what it needs to heal, to come back, rebound, but thrive, and be in a place better than they had been before these investments were made. So that is why we are announcing, and we have Catherine Roberts here today, the East Side Resiliency Center, which will result in $3 million in state aid, to be on the ground, be the place that people know to go to, be the place that people can say, I'm housing insecure, I need a roof over my head, I need more services, I need to figure out mental health services, I need to figure out where to get food tomorrow. I am so proud that Catherine has been on the ground with her team already, but let's formalize that. Let's make this long-standing. Let's make this longer term. So we're announcing $3 million in state aid with more money to come for that as well. But I said, that's great to get started with. But I said, let's go big. Let's be bold. We've identified an additional $50 million of resources for the east side of Buffalo. I am so proud of this, but I didn't come up with this on my own. This is the result of my team being engaged with the mayor's office, the majority leader's office, the senator's office, and everyone involved, and the clergy, and the leaders of the not-for-profits who we have been working with since day one. Literally yesterday I sat down with them. I said, tell me what's on your mind, what else do you need, and as a result, this $50 million is a start toward addressing those needs. So we have identified $36.5 million in services for housing and social services. What am I talking about? You know, we have over 4,000 homeowners on the east side who are behind in their payments for their bills, their water bills, their sewer bills, their taxes. We have identified $20 million to go give an average award of $5,000 to these individuals to help them get out from behind the stress of having to make these payments. That is going to start as soon as possible. And at a time when inflation's going up and the cost of living continues to rise, this is going to help liberate these individuals from their back taxes and their back payments to home repair. We have thousands of people, but we're going to serve over 1,000 east side homeowners and help them with their repairs. You see the houses on the east side of Buffalo. Why do they look this way? Because the cost of repairing them is so exorbitant, especially now as prices continue to go up. So we're going to be giving grants to over 1,000 homeowners, an average of $10,000 each, to help them get stabilized, make sure that they're in compliance with outstanding building code violations, and we're going to get that started right away as well. Throughout history, there has been a racial gap in home ownership, whether it was redlining, whether it was access to capital, the ability to save up for that first down payment on a home. We are going to serve 150 first-time homeowners with access to down payments, an average of $30,000, $4.5 million to help these individuals be part of a program, get them jump-started, and allow them the pride of home ownership. Again, 150 people will benefit from that as well. We also have a public engagement unit. We're funding at the tune of $2 million. And what this is still in draft form. We're continuing to work with the community on what they're looking for. But there's a lot of services out there that people don't know about. They're not connected to them. And this is based on a pilot program that has been used in other cities. New York City had this very successfully. And after a 3-year period in New York City, they were able to identify 300,000 people in need of services that they didn't know they were eligible for. So that's the model we're using here in Buffalo, starting with $2 million for that as well. That's a start, but also very, very important to our mayor was how we memorialize the lives of those we lost. Each person was not just a name or a number. It is a person, a personality, an individual behind it, a family, person who had an impact while they lived here in this community. We need to honor that and celebrate that. So a huge priority for Mayor Brown, and therefore it's important to me, is to establish a 514 commission and allow the mayor to convene the stakeholders and have them develop a plan to properly memorialize that day and those individuals going forward forever. So we're doing our part. In addition to the inspiration of what we saw unfold here in Buffalo, the inspiration for nation-leading laws that were just signed just a couple weeks ago, 10 major bills, 10 major pieces of legislation. And again, I thank my legislative partners for helping us get that through. Critically important, Senator Kennedy, his voice in the Senate, Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Stokes, Sean Ryan, and others really stepped up to say, no more. No longer can we turn our eyes away from the fact that access to an AR-15 should not be available for an 18-year-old or a teenager. We changed that law in response. We worked on our red flag laws. They are now tougher, the model for the rest of the nation. So many other areas where we tightened up laws, closed loopholes, but made sure that we're doing whatever we can governmentally in terms of our laws to make sure that we can protect against this from happening again, as well as working with and holding accountable the social media companies that allow the spread of this hate speech, whether it's what the replication of what happened in New Zealand a number of years ago at the Christchurch massacre. We saw the same words in the manifesto used by the killer here in Buffalo. So that's another whole dynamic. It's complicated. It has an intersection of free speech rights, but I also think that we have to hold people accountable and start stopping the spread of white supremacist views and other views of hatred, such as replacement theories and other areas where people are becoming radicalized through social media. We've got a lot to do, but I wanted this community to know this is my home. This is deeply personal to me, and I have seen the specter of segregation and racism, and we are going to continue eradicating the core purposes, why it exists, try to change the hearts and minds, but also eradicate the injustice that still lives today. And through these investments, on top of what we had already been working on in my fairly new administration, coupled with this additional $50 million at this time, and we're going to continue working to lift up businesses. We have plans for business incubators, incentivizing money for small businesses to be developed as well. We have a lot of ideas, but I want to make sure the commitment is clear. This is not a press conference day and we walk away. This is a long-standing personal commitment from the governor of New York State to this community, and together we will start to make a difference and let this community know they matter and to give them hope that the better days do lie ahead. And with that, I want to thank my partner and welcome up my partner in this whole process, Mayor Byron Brown. I cannot say enough to see your leadership in action at a time when you are needed the most. And I thank you for having a critical role in developing these ideas, because you know what this community needs, you want us to deliver, and as a result, we're here today. Mayor Byron Brown.
Thank you very much, Governor Hochul. We certainly thank you for this extraordinary allocation of resources for our community, both resources that were previously budgeted and resources that are new in the aftermath of the mass shooting on 5/14. I want to thank all of our partners in government. Governor mentioned them, but again want to mention our Attorney General, Letitia James, Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado, my partner who I work with so closely, County Executive Polkars, New York State Senator Kennedy, Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Stokes, who I understand is on her way, and Catherine Roberts, the President and CEO of the Resource Council of Western New York. As the Governor said, we just came from marching in the Juneteenth parade, large turnout of people, spirits high, a lot of children out, but a sense of remembrance and a sense of reflection on the act of domestic terrorism that occurred in the city of Buffalo on the 14th of May. A resolve in the community to be more united than ever before, to work together more closely than ever before, and not to forget the 10 precious lives that were taken unnecessarily, horrifically on that day. These investments are in keeping with what the governor said, to have an immediate short-term focus, mid-term focus, and long-term focus of the needs of this community. And while all of us heard pretty frequently from the governor before 5/14, I can say that in the aftermath, the day of 5/14, and every day thereafter, there hasn't been a day that has gone by that I haven't heard from Governor Hochul or a member of her staff. She has had people on the ground here every day. Commissioners in just about every state department that can make a difference have been on the line, have been in Buffalo, and we feel a real sense, even in the pain that we're still experiencing, we feel a sense of hope and optimism for the future of this community and for where this community will go. So I thank the governor for that, and I thank her staff for that. The 5/14 Memorial Commission that the governor referenced. Talked to the governor about the importance of this. We had been hearing from members of the community about the importance of memorializing the Buffalo 10, remembering the Buffalo 10, never forgetting the precious lives that were lost, but doing it the right way, doing it with the families of the victims, with the survivors of the massacre, with people who are grieving and hurting in the community, businesses on Jefferson Avenue, and doing something that will be lasting, that will be fitting for the memory of those precious lives that were lost. So we will announce the composition of the 5/14 Memorial Commission in the coming days. I thank the governor for her tremendous support for this effort, for a commitment of resources and technical expertise for this effort. And again, like these investments that the governor has announced today, this will be a community-driven effort. We will involve the families, the members of the community, and this will be done right, so it is a fitting and lasting tribute and memorial to the 10 innocent victims of that mass shooting that occurred on 5/14. Now it is my pleasure to introduce someone who has walked side by side with the governor on these issues and on this work. Someone who has reached out frequently to our community in the short period of time that he has been the lieutenant governor. I am confident that with Governor Hochul, Lieutenant Governor Anthony Delgado is going to be a bright light in the state of New York. It's my pleasure to introduce Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor Brown and Governor Hochul. Thank you for your leadership in this moment. To all my partners in public service, thank you for the work that you all do. To me, this is a moment of turning pain into purpose, and it is incredibly fitting that we are gathered here today on Juneteenth, reflecting, I would hope, on the history from slavery to the black codes, to Jim Crow, to the redlining, to the war on drugs, to mass incarceration, the legacy the legacy of hate and racism persists, and it is incumbent upon us to continue the struggle for those who came before us to fight for better days, to fight for equality and access to opportunity for everybody, for this country to live up to its ideals. And what this day is about, and these investments are about, is both empowering communities today that are dealing with and struggling with the realities of things like food deserts, neglect, housing affordability issues, transportation needs that stem again from a history rooted in racism. And it takes leadership to be able to step up at a time like this, and that's what Governor Hochul is displaying, to meet this moment and to turn the pain that we have experienced and this community has experienced acutely, into purpose. This is the work that matters now, and it matters in a way that I think hopefully will inspire communities all across the country to reflect on our own shared history, American history, and to reflect on how we can continue the struggle to be better, to perfect our union. And I think New York has a special place to play and a special part to play in ushering us into that reality, where we truly confront our realities, we truly wrestle with the pain of our past and call upon each other in love, in unity, in compassion, in mutual understanding to be better, And I'll just conclude by saying it's always important to know that no one is born to hate. No one's born hating somebody because of the color of their skin or their religion or their gender or their sexual orientation. Nobody. It is a learned behavior. It is learned. And so as I was out there today in the Juneteenth parade in Buffalo, my first, taking in the energy and the love of the community, I was also appreciating the atmosphere it was creating for our children, in the air for our children to breathe, the love, the solidarity, the community, the unity. We need that more than anything else. And Buffalo's leading in that regard. So thank you, Governor Hochul, thank you for your leadership. And it gives me great pleasure to now introduce my friend, Attorney General James.
Thank you. Thank you.
3 quick points. 150 years ago, the shackles of slavery were lifted from a people. But the people were truly not free, particularly as we think about the 10 individuals who were slaughtered by a sick, demented individual who was fueled by hate, by supremacy, white supremacy. And so we've got to think about those 10 individuals, particularly now, and recognize that none of us can be free. None of us in a society can be free when individuals are hated by the color of their skin. 2, all across this country, highways have separated communities. Urban renewal, eminent domain, a la Robert Moses, have torn through communities, segregated communities. And one side of the community, as a result of benign and intentional neglect, as a result of disinvestment, as a result of redlining, have been ignored. And that one side of the community has lost precious resources and unfortunately has not been in a position to gain wealth. And we saw most recently, as individuals lost homes, we saw the greatest transfer of wealth, particularly amongst people of color in our nation. And so I want to thank Governor Hochul. I want to thank Mayor Brown. I want to thank the Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado for recognizing that this will no longer happen in East Buffalo, that these residents of East Buffalo who live in a food desert, who lack opportunities, all that they want is what every American wants, and that is to have access to equal opportunity and access to opportunities. And as a result of the investment of this governor, East Buffalo will no longer be ignored. And lastly, let me say that these investments, in the words of Dr. King, out of a stone of despair, out of a mountain of despair come stones of hope. And so now everyone in Buffalo, in the great state of New York, will recognize that we're no longer leaving anyone behind, that we're lifting people up, and that we are, again, going beyond and making sure that all individuals appreciate and respect what they did 150 years ago, and we can now celebrate freedom. It is now my opportunity and my pleasure to introduce the great Senator of Buffalo. Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Ted Kennedy.
Thank you very much. Let me start where my great friend and ally and leader in government, who hopefully she'll be joining us, Assemblywoman Crystal Peoples-Stokes, would start. I think it's fitting on this great day. To God be the glory. You know, today is a very emotional day for all of us. We marched in the Juneteenth parade, and it was an incredible celebration of Buffalo, of Black America, of emancipation, of America, of the American dream becoming a reality 150 plus years ago for those that were still enslaved down in Texas. And we're reminded as we celebrate today walking down Genesee Street, and we come over here to Jefferson Avenue, across the street from where that horrific atrocity took place just 5 weeks ago today, that we've got a lot more work to do. But as I stand here, I have to tell you how inspired and filled with hope I am because of the partnerships that we have here standing with us at this podium here today, starting with Governor Hochul, Lieutenant Governor Delgado, Mayor Byron Brown, County Executive Polkars, Attorney General James, Catherine Roberts, Alexander Wright from the African American Heritage Food Co-op, Zanetta Everhart from my office, Head of Diversity and Inclusion, whose family was directly impacted by that atrocity, Hope Knight, the Head of Economic Development in New York State, all of us in partnership through the governor's leadership in delivering needed resources to our community, working together with all these amazing community partners driven with their leadership that's going to make sure that these funds go, yes, toward the infrastructure that we see that's tangible each and every day under our feet and throughout our community, but addressing the human need, the human capital, helping individuals to stay in their homes, helping individuals to get an education, to get training, to find a job and an opportunity, to grow their wealth in our community, to grow that generational wealth that has skipped far too many Western New Yorkers, and Americans. And it's Governor Hochul's leadership that's helping to make that a reality right here in Buffalo on the east side, that yes is still grieving. Yes is still healing, and we will be for a long time to come. But we're picking up the pieces and we're doing something about it. We're making progress out of the gate, and we're doing it quickly, decisively, and we're doing it together. And we've got a lot more work to do, as we're reminded. We are just getting started, but what a start this is. Thank you, Governor Hochul, for your leadership and your commitment and your investment here today. And thank you to the community leaders for having that vision, for sticking with us here in Buffalo, and for driving this agenda forward to do what's right by our community. And we are going to take this atrocity of white supremacy and evil that reared its ugly head here in Buffalo, and we're going to do something positive about it. Yes, we're going to call out the hate. Yes, we're going to call out the evil. Yes, we're going to call out the white supremacy. Yes, we're going to hold people accountable. But we're going to lift each other up, and we're going to lift up our community better than ever before. Thank you, Governor. It's my honor and my privilege now to introduce our great partner in government and county executive, Mark Polkars.
Thank you, Senator, and it is my pleasure to be here today. And on behalf of the people of Erie County, I just want to say a tremendous thank you once again to Governor Hochul for her continued investment in our community. As she noted beforehand, she was putting the state's money where her mouth was before the incident that occurred on May 14th, with millions, tens of millions of dollars that were slated for organizations, institutions that we know of in the east side of Buffalo. And so on behalf of the people of Erie County, I want to thank her for that prior commitment, but also what she has done through her administration since that fateful day on May 14th. I remember that day. I was saying we would not be defined by that incident, but how we responded as a community. And our community stepped up to the plate to deliver for those that were in need. Of course, the pain is still there, the hurt is still there, and it's going to take a long time to overcome this. There will be a scar on our community forever, but it's how we've responded that also lets us know the tremendous nature of this community, how we've come together to assist those in need. And I want to thank everyone that's standing here today, because they all played a part, whether it was from our partners in government that you see standing behind me, our friends in the not-for-profit sector, such as the Resource Center, and Catherine Roberts and her team, and every other group that was out there that came together to address the short-term needs. But what the governor talked about today is how we address the long-term needs for a community that has unfortunately faced probably more than a century of discrimination and racism that has affected Black Buffalo. But we can only be as strong in the city of Buffalo, and we can only be as strong in the county of Erie when all of our areas are strong. If one portion of our community is hurting, then all of the portions of our community are weaker for it. And that's why these investments will make a difference not only for the east side of Buffalo, but for all of Buffalo and all of Erie County. Because when we make one neighborhood, one community stronger, all of us become stronger as a result of it. So to the people of this community, there's more help coming. And I want to thank Governor Hochul for ensuring that the dollars are going to the right sources, and that's important. It's one thing to announce dollars and saying, here's what's available, but she's right. Her team has been here almost every day, talking to all the partners in city government and county government and the not-for-profits and the faith-based community and in the community themselves, talking to the residents about what they need. And that this program is a very important program because it addresses the various concerns and needs that are out there. So once again, on behalf of the people of Erie County, I want to thank the governor for her continued support. I'm not surprised, being the Buffalonian that she is, because she loves this community. She understands its needs, and I thank her greatly for the continued support that she's providing to our community at its greatest time of need that I can ever remember. So thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Congressman.
With that, it is my pleasure to introduce my partner in county government, our chairwoman of the Erie County Legislature, April Baskin.
Thank you, County Executive Polkars. Thank you to my colleagues, and thank you to our esteemed Governor, Kathy Hochul, and her Lieutenant Governor Delgado, for their investment into East Buffalo. Giving honor to Catherine Roberts, who is, in my opinion, a frontline responder to the tragedy that happened on May 14th at Tops on Jefferson, Executive Director and CEO of the Resource Council, who immediately responded with a resiliency center and a relief center at the opposite direction of where the county housed a healing hub on Jefferson Avenue, and provided so many resources to our community. I honor you, Black woman, on this Juneteenth, and I thank you for your leadership and what you will continue to do through the support of the Department of Justice and the State Department of Victim Services, and continuing to give our community those services. Please, a round of applause for Catherine. I think today is a very, very special Juneteenth for the residents of the city of Buffalo. We have been removed from being able to celebrate Juneteenth in person for 2 years. First, it was because of the global pandemic that was plaguing our entire world. But we saw here in Erie County disproportionate rates of positive COVID cases happening in the 14215 district for a large amount of time. And that is because of systemic barriers that have constantly plagued East Buffalo. So that kept us from celebrating our pride, our truth, and our history as a Black people. And then recently, we had to face this slaughtering of innocent Black people. We had to face this massacre of innocent Black people, elders, seniors, people in our community, grandparents, a father who was at the store to buy his son a birthday cake, his life taken from him. That's hard for me to digest this week as I celebrate the second birthday of my little baby boy. I was able to buy him a birthday cake and celebrate his birthday with him. So we cannot forget those who lost their lives senselessly at Tops on Jefferson this past week because of white nationalism and the ideologies behind white supremacy. And it seems to me that somebody that is setting the paveway for us to not forget is our great governor, Kathy Hochul. I tell you that I am so proud and so thankful for her and her administration's investment into what we're now calling East Buffalo, no longer the East Side, but we are equitably changing our dialogue and how we reference the historically black community in the city of Buffalo. Thank you for your investment. And I tell you that it is today, on this Juneteenth, that I am so proud to be black. I am so proud to be a black person from Buffalo, but I'm even more proud to call Kathy Hochul my governor. Thank you for your investment. I think our mayor said it best yesterday when you met with faith leaders. We are tired of the charity, he said, and the people in his community are tired of the charity. We no longer want handouts. We want someone, we want leaders, we want the public and private sectors to begin to invest in people having the resources to have a better life themselves. So no more, here's a little something for you. Here's a little cherry on top for you to make do with because we feel bad about what's happened to you historically or what happened to you on May 14th. But here's millions of dollars of investment and an opportunity for you to take into your hands and for you and your children and generations after to have a better life. Thank you, the state of New York. Thank you for what you're doing for our community in the city of Buffalo. And with that, I'll turn it over to your partner, my partner, our matriarch here on the east side of Buffalo, our great assembly member and majority leader of the New York State Assembly, the Honorable Crystal Peoples-Stokes.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I forgot your shirt. I just can't say enough about how proud I am of this governor and her ability to quickly understand what is needed in order to move communities forward. If I just started with the covering of the 33 when she was sworn in as the interim governor, she's getting ready to be the permanent governor for 4 years, by the way. And she immediately saw the need to what other people had talked about for years, and I know they've been talking about it because I've been talking to them, of covering the 33 that severed a community in half, separated two, which was vibrant commercial districts, Jefferson Avenue and Fillmore Avenue. As soon as she got there, she knew that had to be done, and she took care of it in this year's budget. So it's things like that and what she's doing here today that gives me hope that we're not going to hear people wanting to just be charitable and offer you things that are temporary and not going to be the things that will help you sustain and grow your life in this community. And so I am really, really honored that she would do that for us. So thank you. I know that her and her lieutenant governor have a lot of work to do between now and then, but when you have the purse strings, you have the ability to make these things happen. And she has decided that that is what happened. I am super grateful that she's seen fit to fully fund the African Heritage Co-op that is super necessary in this community. Now, I'm the one that went all the way to Amsterdam to fight for Tops to come here. I'm the one that was told originally that, no, we will never put a Tops on Jefferson. And I fully expect that there will be another Tops on Jefferson. I believe Mr. Persons when he says that. But that's not going to be enough for this community. We need to be able to get some stability in our own ability to market vegetables, meats to ourselves, because sometimes other people may make a decision that they want to change. Yeah. And so I want to acknowledge Alex Wright, and I'm glad that the governor saw fit to fully support what will soon be and I am super tired. I just walked the entire parade. And can I tell you that my people give me life? And the last song that we played on our float as we rode into the viewing stand was by James Brown. It's a really old song. It's Say It Loud. I'm black. And I'm proud. And I'm proud. And so I am super proud to have the opportunity to introduce Catherine Roberts, who has been doing just a phenomenal job at the Western New York Resource Center over on East Ferry. The response of service that they came to once we had to suffer this massacre was just amazing. And so Catherine Roberts.
Thank you so much, Governor Hochul, and to everyone who has stood on the front lines with the Resource Council of Western New York at 347 East Ferry Street since day one and over the last 4 weeks. Thank you. With this tremendous investment of funding, the Buffalo United Resiliency Center at the Resource Council of Western New York can offer long-term support services for the community impacted by this horrible tragedy that touched us all. With this funding, we can now continue to provide easy access to grief counseling, mental health services, and a host of community resources from a coalition of nonprofit service providers, local organizations, government agencies, and more to help uplift individuals and families from youth to seniors. We all know that having access to resources within a community really matters. And if they're centralized in one location, even better. The Buffalo United Resiliency Center at the Resource Council of Western New York can now serve as that community hub, that safe haven, that beacon of hope for those in need. And together, we will not only help this community heal, but we're going to learn how to better take care of each other so we can unite and affect positive change in the community and begin to change the narrative about East Buffalo. On behalf of the Resource Council of Western New York, our board chair, Reverend Terry King, who joined us today, our board of directors, please know that we will continue to pray for our city and this great nation. And we are so grateful to Buffalo, Western New York, and beyond for coming together to show others that hate has no place in our hearts or our hometown. And we will get through this as Buffalo United. Thank you again to our friends in government, our army of volunteers, donors, and agency partners. And a special thank you to the District Attorney's Office, the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services, and to our friends at the New York State Office of Victim Services, who have been nothing short of amazing and incredible partners through all of this. And lastly, to Governor Hochul, for your continued support, your leadership, your commitment, your genuine love and prayers. Thank you for entrusting the Resource Council of Western New York with this opportunity to serve our community with the resources that this under-resourced community needs to finally move forward and thrive. Thank you so much.
Thank you.